funny, I don't keep track of the exact dates, but coming up in this September 13th, will be one day at a time. God grant me the serenity to accept things are gonna change, courage to shrink things I can, and wisdom know the difference. When I make it to September, it will be 3. Wait, no. 3. That's a Tarantino reference for you. It would be 3 years without a drink. I was a real bad alcoholic. Like my father before me, and his father before him, and their father, and my mother, going back. Lucky that I wasn't worse, and I often was. I think I just had, again, like the Mr. Burns Three Stooges syndrome with all the hard-ass drugs, which, except for maybe the speed, I never became really addicted to one, And thank goodness I was always terrified of needles, again, probably because of my subconscious memory of childhood, those repressed memories. I would see them and know the danger. So I haven't gotten the vaccine yet. Why would I want to get the vaccine? I mean, for many reasons. Some valid, some not. I don't like needles. I've seen the damage done. But yeah, so the thing that got me to really stop drinking was, I've mentioned this before. It was that marathon I did, when I was in the giant bear puppet suit, and I crawled my way to complete a 13-mile half marathon for charity for the Greater Hartford Harm Reduction Coalition to help help people who mainly were fentanyl, heroin, and crack addicts, just like my parents. I didn't realize I was doing it for my parents. I had so many other people's names in mind, other people who had died, and friends who I dedicated it for when they interviewed me, but I was dancing around the truth and lying, more or less, because it was about my recovery. It was about my parents. And I would have probably relapsed soon after I completed it, because I had stopped drinking, mainly for, the marathon. I wasn't able to stop smoking cigarettes, fucking weed. I smoked took a couple cigarettes and fucking smoked weed in the bear suit or in the fucking thing. I took a break from a half marathon to have a cigarette. Took me a long ass time, but I was in a fucking giant bear puppet suit, so whatever. Sacrifices we make. But within almost a week after that, my father, I know now that it was, he had an overdose. Because I remember in the hospital seeing his arms, and I thought it was just they were sore because of the fucking what the needles that they were putting in him in there, but no, it was because I wasn't around. And after I'd moved out, he was just him and my mother, just 2 fucking former junkies, just falling back into old habits. Skip ahead, do a little time jump. When I moved back in here last year after Corona, I wanted to save money and I didn't have a job. Was aimless and depressed, and again had Corona. But a part of me, I think, needed to come back here. Because I remember moving back in here, and this spot was a hovel. It was decay and mold and bed bugs, and the spot was so depressing because they were just using and using, and they weren't taking care of themselves. They weren't taking care of themselves. They were festering in their own sadness, and that's why they weren't taking care of my cat. I took the way they hurt my cat so personal that I hurt my mother in bad ways, really. Maybe the intervention I give her wasn't coming from love the way it should have. It's crazy. Things that are right under your nose. Right behind your back the whole time, but you don't see it till it's too late. So you had a flashback to the marathon. Not the flashback all the way 2013, but moderately to the marathon, which was 2018. So my father's in the hospital, and I see him there, thinking it's just because of the drinking, really. But see him there close to death. I know what his deathbed would have been like. I didn't really need to be there. I've been there before. Seeing that, and thinking, well, if you had a kid, and he was where you were right now, and you were there, would you want to put him through that? To what you feel right now? No. So either you sterilize yourself right now, or you pull the spirit up from yourself and gain the moral and physical fortitude and courage to not go down this path, because you see you have no plausible deniability right now. You see exactly where you're going if you're lucky, because you know where you used to be. So that's why I stopped drinking, one day at a time, really. I owe it to my father. And that's why I was so desperate, maybe too desperate, to get him to recover this year. And I think I kind of did. But it was a little too late. Or perhaps, similar to how my parents tried to recover when I was 10, like I said before, and why they tried to stay alive for me. Maybe my father always kept hanging on, not so much for the money. He would give some to me. He knew he could have, before my mother fucked me over. Maybe not even so much for the money, because he knew, I could find my way. But maybe he knew I needed to break these cycles. He would always tell me, hey, don't do what I did. I took a left when I should have taken a right. He could see it in me. He could see the shit I was doing, like the story I'm telling now. We're about to get to. Don't worry, I'll get to the CEO. I told you I'd talk about him this part, and I definitely will probably finish the story in the fifth part like a Shakespearean play. So don't you fret. It's coming. But I got more important things to talk about right now. So my father. He needed to make sure I was strong enough to dance with the demons and to beat the demons and to live in this world. And then maybe, I'm just trying to be poetic, but allow me the indulgence, maybe he had fended off that Reaper. He was playing chess with that Reaper, fending off every fucking thing, fending off that brain tumor even, fending off his immune system collapsing, fending off the fucking COVID even somehow. Because he just needed to make sure I would be okay. And then maybe what I did for him, how I stood up for him, the things that I said to him, the fact that he knew that somebody knew who he was. Isn't that what we want as human beings? Isn't that why we tell our stories? Isn't that why we shout into the void and and fuck and do all this? Because we just need somebody to see us for who we are and to love us, to accept us, no matter the mistakes we've made. People who we can tell our deepest, darkest secrets to with no shame. And I don't think my father necessarily thought he could have that, even in me. I think that's why he always kept it from me, the full extent of the disease. But I saw it. And despite seeing it, I still said to him that he was the greatest man I ever met. And that I loved him more than anyone ever loved anything or anyone. And that he should have been destined for greatness, that he should have been Larry Bird, that he could have flew. But then he became something better. And he became my father. And that's why I'm now realizing more. Part. And I'm going to get to it in the next part. Is why I more or less that it wasn't suicide, but when I fell off that summit on Summit Street, that literal fucking 75-foot fucking 50? It was high. It's actually very high. I fell off the cliff and took a swing at the CEO. Because much like my father, I realized that the path I thought I would be, the whatever, professor, academic, whoever I thought I was going to be, the husband to that girl who left me, loyal friends to friends I betrayed, all those things I thought I was going to be, I just wasn't. I wasn't. And I was so crushed by it. Because I didn't want to be stuck in goddamn dead-end fucking Hartford or East Hartford. Bunch of fucking losers, huh? I was so wrong. I was so arrogant. I was so prideful. That's why I fell. But yeah, I'll get into more details in the next